Welcome back to Spelunky! This is episode 4 of my Let's Play series, and I'm Psychedelic Eyeball. Now that we met the Tunnel Man in the last update, there's something different into the opening lobby, so let's go have a look at what it is. Yeah, this is where we'll be able to access the shortcuts leading to the various locations that we'll see on our journey as we progress more and more through the game. So we've done a couple of runs now, and hopefully we should be having the hang of things a little bit, so we're gonna increase the pace from now on. So the object that we just collected is a climbing glove. This allows you to stick on surfaces, but it also has the slight disadvantage of potentially slowing you down because you may end up clinging on surfaces that you normally will not want to cling on. But the good news about it is that using these you can save a shit ton of ropes, or you can make moving and overall much more easier to do. Yeah, instead of having to climb on those narrow platforms, hey, you can just do that. That's much better and much more efficient. Some people will outright skip the climbing glove because with some other movement item, it can make moving a little bit awkward. For instance, if you have the jetpack and you end up clinging on every single wall that you see all around you, this can be a little bit difficult to deal with. But in those circumstances, well, you also have the side effect of pretty much having unlimited fuel, so the climbing glove can be useful in that one instance. And overall though, I gotta say, I've warmed up to the climbing glove. I didn't like them earlier on, but I'm finally starting to know what I'm doing with them, so usually I will pick them whenever I'm playing. With another item that we will see later in the game, it can be very useful. Oh, and by the way, there's an option in the game that allows you to change the damsel style. Right now, we're rescuing pugs. Essentially, you can choose which kind of damsels you will rescue in the game. You have the classic damsel in a red dress, and yeah, you have this guy whose sole clothing is his red underwear and a bow tie. This is the Manzel. So usually whenever I play, I'm doing the best thing, and that is obviously to have the random feature. A true adventurer gotta be open to every single thing that is ahead of you. Gotta have an open mind. And here you can see my favorite activities with damsels, which is to set traps. Usually that's pretty much the best thing that you can do whenever it comes to all sorts of stunts and shenanigans. I mean, they can take one hit, and besides, I was just gonna feed him to Kelly. Now right here we have a dilemma. I kinda want the idol, but if I run on the opposite direction, the boulder will end into the shopkeeper boutique, and this will make it so that he will be mad at us. So yeah, I just ended up nuking Kelly's altar instead, but there was a way that I could have done otherwise. I'm gonna show that off into another video because there's a secret thing that the altars can do with the idol. So let's see if there's anything good for sale. Yep, that's pretty much it. Parachutes are the most inexpensive item in the game, but that's pretty much what they're worth. So let's see what happens if we bomb boulders. I showed that off previously in another update, but instead of destroying the boulders, you'll make them run. And yeah, I think I should have chosen a better opportunity in order to do that, because the shopkeeper is not very happy with me. So what exactly is pissing off a shopkeeper entail you for? Well, for a playthrough of excitement and thrills, because from now on, there's absolutely nothing that we can do in order to reconciliate with the shopkeeper. They're gonna be mad at us until the end of time. So yeah, right now I'm trying to bomb through the walls, and here you can see how handy-paced is, because you don't have to do really fancy shenanigans in order to destroy the walls like I did. I ended up wasting one bomb because of that. So yeah, you will see pretty soon why shopkeepers are such a huge pain in the butt, because they're by far the most fearsome adversaries that you'll have to deal with in the entire game. Alright, just a quick look all over the place in order to make sure that I'm not missing the key. You will always find the key in the same level than the chest, and it will randomly appear in one of the later mine levels of the episode. It's either in level 1-2, 1-3, or 1-4. It will never spawn on the first level, just like you will never see a shopkeeper, an altar, or an idol on the first level. There was such things into the original Spelunky. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there was Golden Idol in Spelunky Classic, but then again, the idols were definitely not as destruction-inducing than they are into this one version of the game. Yep, you always gotta be careful whenever you throw stuff at the powder boxes, especially arrows, considering that they deal double damage compared to most other items that you will find in the game. It is definitely in these situations where you kind of realize the huge Rube Goldberg nature of the game at times, because the physics in this version of the game are far more elaborate than the original Spelunky. There's a lot of things that can happen once an item is launched in the air, so a shopkeeper will guard the exit of every single level from now on, and whenever you get close enough, they just charge in. And you can see that dealing with them is going to be troublesome because of how fast they are. If you can, try not to fight with the shopkeeper, because he will usually have the advantage on a duel, unless that you know all about his AI and pattern and everything. And sometimes, just by ignoring him, you can pretty much lead him to killing himself, pretty much at the opposite side of the world. Why the hell was he here? I guess we'll never know, so whenever he dies, you can take all of his money, as well as his shotgun, which is bar none one of the best weapons of the entire game. It's just a really good and balanced weapon that is suitable to deal with pretty much every single situation in this game. Each of the pellets that it shoots deals 4 damage, and at this point of the game, the only enemy that can withstand more than one shot will either be the shopkeeper or the giant spider. Otherwise, everything will instantly die the moment that we shoot at it. And yeah, you can see how handy the climbing glove can be, more so whenever you're dealing with flying enemies. I mean, right now you're probably thinking, dealing with bats, that's not really a huge deal, but there's far more fearsome flying adversaries into this game, so you gotta get ready for them. Once that you've pissed off the shopkeepers, all that remains for you is to pretty much stand your ground and make sure that you collect as much money as possible. At this point, instead of currency, we're just talking about the score, because we're not gonna spend any more money because there's nobody to spend it on anymore. At this point, we're just going through in order to get the biggest score that you can ever have. And since this game pretty much works on a risk versus reward kind of mechanic, usually the best playthroughs that you will have in this game will usually involve you having to piss off the shopkeeper, because buying the items legitimately and surely will just make you lose so much money that you will not be able to make it through. So the best thing to do whenever you have to fight shopkeepers is to lure them through a tiny passage that you pretty much know their pattern and they won't be able to jump out of the way of your projectiles, so by doing what I've done, you're surely going to be able to get the jump on them, more so if you have a ranged weapon like the shotgun. That's pretty much the best weapon to deal with shopkeepers. And hello again, Tunnel Man. Yeah. There's gonna be 3 separate items that you need to give him in order for him to build a shortcut for you. Now we've given him 2 out of 3, and we're gonna have to come back here in a later playthrough in order to be able to finally build the shortcut to the jungle. So to the right of us is a slave shop, and since the shopkeepers are angry with us, the slaves will automatically join you and try to help you, but I'm gonna put the emphasis on quote-unquote help, because they generally are not really that useful. The AI in overall is not really good at waiting around the area, and whenever they get their hands on weapons, well, you better cross your fingers, because you're pretty much going to hell, and the hired hand will be your ticket in order to die. And speaking of ticket to die, yeah, these are the tiki traps, and with that you've just learned how dangerous these obstacles are, because we had 2 hit points and yet we died in only 1 hit. And in fact, whenever you get impaled by tiki traps, they deal 4 damage to you, making them the most lethal trap in the entire game. So we're gonna have to definitely avoid those on our next playthrough. Coming up next, we're gonna clear the jungle.